Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. I've begun to introduce simulation theory into our ponderings of the multiverse and reality creation, and we've explored many of its facets. As I sit and ponder simulation theory, I have many thoughts that come up. So I just wanted to spend some time discussing the implications of simulation theory. I've already discussed how we are in a simulation, the veritable proof that we can see through a variety of things in the physical universe, the impossibility of traveling beyond our solar system because of limitations of traveling beyond the speed of light, or the Fibonacci sequence. We see a number of algorithms built into the reality around us. I'm not talking just about a computer program, something much more advanced. So instead of just spending an entire episode on why and how we're in a simulation, I wanted to ponder beyond this. First of all, how ethical would it be for highly sophisticated beings to create such a simulation? And how plausible would the reality of all this be in the first place? Is it not slightly plausible that other civilizations could survive long enough in advancement to build a virtual universe, virtual inhabitants, humans and aliens, and all the virtual cosmological events that come with a plausible universe? Whether us as humans believe this to be true or not, we cannot deny statistical probabilities, and these probabilities are real. All we can do is ask further questions of the nature of all of this, Earth's and human history, Earth's and humans' future. Where are the atrocious dictators and horrible human figures placed in all of this? Were these highly questionable human beings put here for a purpose? And if so, was this purpose ethical? What about all the great historical existences of humans and all their great achievements? Is it all pre-planned? And if so, where did they draw the line, and why draw the line in the first place? Observational pondering leads these queries onto the next path that explores the possibility that we were created in the Creator's own image, and this image must be that of a reasonably good image, good ethics, good natures, good intelligence, hence the spot we are in on this universal timeline, comparative to our creators, that is. Should these other universe creators have taken more care of our horrible histories? Should they be intervening in present situations? Or is this a case of the training wheels being off? Ethics aside, the odds that we are all simulated are pretty damn good. Also pretty good for the theologians, believers in God or many gods. It all still comes down to our beginning and where we are going. Should we be trying to impress our creators, or should our creators be trying to impress us? Are we living in a simulated universe? A simulation are we living in? I think, therefore I exist. Am I dreaming this existence? Do films with simulation themes hold the answer? What is the big theory? Is this simulation real? Are our programs almost at the stage of running simulation programs with inhabitants of full consciousness like ours? Who wrote or who is writing our simulated universe? Who are our advanced ascendants, and where are they now? Everything we think we know about reality is wrong. Is the growing awakening that reality could be a high-tech reality fabrication by immaculate computer systems of our own future or ascendants taken to a point that we as a simulation cannot tell the difference between what is reality and what is simulation, and possibly never will? Forget virtual reality and other artificial high-tech sensory input technologies that are changing our existence as we know it, from education to medicine to space exploration, gaming and war. What has really changed? Realities that are simulated from out of loving or spurious machinations of nature, and on the other hand, we would be completely unable or unwilling to perceive truly what is real and what is false. Arguments on this theory concerning our own technological evolution to the very questioning nature of philosophy itself rage on. The age-old, contentious assumptions by Descartes linger. I think, therefore I am. The rib-bone rationale to reality is of a simulated reality existence, Earth and the universe, firmly suggests that our perceived existence as people is not real but merely an extremely intricate program or set of algorithms of a prehistoric basic reality from a different universe. This elaborate program, being truthful enough to appear as actuality to our own perceptions, is supposedly meant to appear real and tangible to the inhabitants of this earth, universe, and what lies beyond. The mind-bending rationale has fueled countless novels and screenplays in the classic science fiction genre, and even crossover genres from comedy to horror. It's not too far out there to assume that the makings of the immaculate computer systems and programs required for such artificial realities is just a stone's throw away from quantum technology. Futurologists from all fields see this as the sure inevitability of our species to have this very capability in our own hands sooner than later. These technological forecasts, if true, as many believe, in the landscape of our not too stretched imaginations, will graphically enlighten us on the complete beginnings, origins, and distant far-off futures of this universe and more. These technological enlightenments could and will be used for medicine, and maybe the ever-strived-for elixir of eternal youth. Complete mind and mental, spiritual awakenings we all have naturally in our grasp. Eco-housing, city design, right through to physiological transport and even transporting in time. Theoretical physics becoming a backbone to basic learning and fundamental understanding for all to access. If acceptance of our current existence exists, and our consciousness is so superbly perfected in a simulation of another's design, and our acceptance is commonplace, then our historical ascendance we do not truly descend from. We descend from the simulated that were simulated by a far more advanced of the first human-like species, if there is or was such a species to begin with. Rationally thinking, our perceived human thought and wonder is of our simulated existence and not of the original intelligent species at all, but we are related, if not by form, but by image. One place to consider simulations is in the world of dreams. Dreams could be the vital link in determining our true reality. Being aware when dreaming or lucid, many have experienced one time or another, this state blurs the lines even more as this quite phenomena opens up a whole new philosophical question of, could we be always in a dream? Dreams we dream don't take the simulation theory for what it is, but for what it isn't. The condition of the dream demonstrates proof that one cannot separate the real world from an illusion of a real world experience. The memory of experiences as state of awake and state of dream get blurred, and this fact alone should push us to examine both experiences with an unbiased reasoning to somehow fathom which is more real, and which senses do we actually rely upon. Real actuality of the dream reckoning is questioning ourselves. Can we always be certain of our waking reality, that we aren't actually dreaming? A tiger I dreamt I was running free after the tiger awoke. The tiger was wondering how he could make it out if he was a human who had just finished dreaming a dream that he was indeed a tiger, or a tiger who had just commenced a brand new dream that he was a human. Surreal dreams, a paradox, or an actuality of simulated reality. Dreams could very well be the vital link in determining our true realities as the phenomenon of dreams, when the evidence might be clearer than we think. Well-known philosophers have held that our waking lives have uncanny similarities to our dreams, which occur frequently for many on a higher regular basis. The perceiving state we are all under in dreams convinces us that this is the true reality we are experiencing, and in waking life we are under the same influence of this perceived state to be likewise convinced, without a doubt, that this is our true reality. In either state, from waking life to dreaming state, it is the indistinguishable characteristics insimilarities that we cannot ignore the possibility that we may be dreaming right now, this moment. The question of whether we are dreaming our own realities and living our own dreams and vice versa is a very deep one we have definitely explored on the podcast. Dreams should be the first go-to in any doubt whatsoever of our very own questioning of perceived realities. We find and discover over and over again the same perception ingredients of our five senses in both perceived worlds. In the dream state, we are constantly deceived of and by the veil into believing this is our actual reality. Dreams have always held elements that can and are felt through the real world, from deepest fears, dormant memories, to highly guarded secrets. We judge a dream of its very nature of total weirdness, but while under the dream veil, we don't judge the integrity. Many of us do not possess the skills or knowledge in waking life of engineering and spatial design to construct the dreams we dream. Yet these constructs are very present and very tangible in the perceived dream state. Who or what really constructs these worlds, and who or what are currently constructing the future architecture of these worlds for our dream theater? The complexities are out of reach for many, and certain peculiar laws exist. They're just the same governing our actions and our responses. The science fiction thriller Inception, according to modern philosophy, has tangible reality attached to such a far-out notion in our not-too-distant future. The intelligence in many of our dream constructs is such that we act on situations before we think things through. Therefore, this intelligence is not our own. A very useful exercise for us to adapt to is several times a day just ask ourselves, am I awake right now? How do I know I'm awake? Have I seen this in a dream? Have I met this person in a dream? I was advised to do this when I first started studying reality transurfing and then lucid dreaming, was to regularly ask myself if I was dreaming. So I started doing it whenever I walked through a door, whenever I opened a window, common little things that we do whenever I go to the bathroom. And there were a few times within my dreams I asked that question, and it awoke me in the dream. The lines get blurred or clarified as we ask ourselves these questions, and through our dream state, these same questions have a higher chance of popping up when and if they do. Shared dreams can and will take on incredible opportunities and enlightenment, such as astronomy, or even a vivid look at past classics and even wars in the past or in the working. The learning environment becoming the limitless. Dream entertainment at will being the deeply internal device we all possess. Enlightenment will have no boundaries whatsoever, but only boundaries of willingness and topic preference. Dreams within dreams, where we take ourselves or are taken to new, deeper levels, where the usual constructs of time take on completely different meaning and boundaries. As in dreams, we know that an hour or so in our waking state can be condensed to a mere few minutes or seconds inside the dream. This phenomenon of time irregularity gets even more intense the deeper down the rabbit hole we go, where the constructs change and take on different laws, and even the characteristics of the fellow dreamer and of ourselves, where the dream governing takes on new dimensions never seen or experienced ever before. If we're in a simulation, you need to start asking yourself, how much of my memories are just memories? How much did I actually experience? You might have entered into your body when you were 30 or 20, as Neville Goddard says that we do. When you go back to the memory, you insist to yourself that you really experienced that. It's right there on the tip of your brain. You know that you experienced it. Or did you? How do you know you really experienced it? You might have woken up today in this body for the first time, and there's no way that you would ever know. Another place to evaluate the simulation is in the film world. I love films, and oftentimes maybe I'll be watching a 7-season miniseries. It feels like I'm watching someone else's simulated reality. Maybe when we die, we sit with our guides and sit and watch an 8-season miniseries about our lives. It goes through all the different things that happened. Films that shape the spurious and delve into human simulation are bringing real conscious feasibility of the reality that we may exist inside of a simulated existence, existing inside these paradoxical walls until someone or something triggers an awakening and usually has a matrix of consequences. These movies that tackle such topics have us questioning the big issue: our existence. Can our world and many other worlds be created by simulations within simulations? This notion may lead us to feel inconsequential in nature and in the hierarchy of life, but just may fuel an even more urgent and greater searching for the true origins of our existence. The main character in The Matrix, with help, has been awakened from another subservient reality. This other reality was his only life until now, an old theory. If I pinch myself in a dream, will I wake? Not quite. So for our main character, Neo must decide and then painfully travel the rabbit hole as if being brutally born again. Which reality is the more comfortable reality, the previous unaware subservient existence, or our character's new harsh, dark, and dystopian reality dismally bordering on a vision of hell on Earth? Of course, this story is cinema science fiction. These movies only get financed and made with the world coming to an end scenario, so they usually do. And the main character, of course, is somehow the chosen one who is the only soul that can prevent this. We need to keep this cinema concept in mind for rationale purposes of study and the reality of our very own possibilities of simulation of existence. For big cinema to succeed, we need massive stakes, such as millions of lives, worlds, and even multiverse at stake, so that people will be interested, empathetic enough to invest 2 hours and share in this cinema made-up world. Simulations creating other, even more intense simulations. Does this ring a bell? A cinematic dystopian world is run by machines, these machines being a metaphor that audiences can grasp easier than a creator simulation that we cannot yet perceive. This cinema dystopian world malevolently exploiting the sleepers for energy and exterminating the awoken. On the bright side, our very own simulated world may quite possibly be built out of love and tolerance with no disposition to exploit or hurt its inhabitants. It is similarly for one purpose or another for our simulation gods to house its inhabitants unquestioningly. Another such film of the genre is Videodrome, where television is the ultimate replacement for human experiences. Another is Brazil, where our main character is living 2 parallel, very real lives, one in his boring real world and the other in his action-packed hero dream world. The 2 worlds inevitably become blurred. Through these genres on the topic of film, a philosophical question enters, and this is it. What if it were true? How would our day-to-day lives change? Possibly religion, sun, tree, animal, or moon worship has been planted here in and around us for thousands of years, possibly to precondition us for the shock of reality if and when enlightenment arrives. What is it that gives us reality and knowing? Are we that trusting of our perceptions, thoughts, and feelings? The 13th floor, where virtual worlds are created to experience a different time in history, but the perceived time in which this experiment originates is yet another time in history altogether. Their reality is far different to what they once thought, and they are shockingly part of a more futuristic place in time, where they are the inhabitants elaborately run by simulations of a far different looking world once again. In this film, it is brilliantly illustrated to us that the characters, while experiencing both worlds, perceive the same sensations, that one cannot tell the difference even in memories. Implanted memories in replicants, as in Blade Runner, where one actually know which memories were formed by experiences and which memories were implanted to simulate a real lived past. Episodic memory, either real or not, gives us a sense of strength and liveliness. The construct of personality in retrieving memories. This has also been seen as a mental time travel device for the imagination, either at will or not. Although a gray area between real memories and pure imagination, where does one end and the other begin? In either way, both can be as convincing as the other, given the right perceived reality to operate from. Authenticity is the big issue. It is well known for a while now that it is a straightforward procedure to send and receive signals that are electrical to the brain. These signals, when received, can give us the stunningly authentic experiences that can pretty much create real living experiences purely inside of our brains. These, for our standards, are highly advanced computer programs and are only getting more advanced, that our imagination is really our only obstacle for where this is headed. This exciting technology secondarily proves something astonishing to us, and this is that the sensations we experience as so-called humans are only in our minds. There is a reality barrier that we still are not aware of because of lifelong conditioning to the contrary. Are we actually coming in contact with something in its truest form? Or is this life merely a display monitor of the super program environment we are in? There is no sound, sight, color, or music. These creations we create in our brains. We see in our brains. Our eyes do not see. They send the signal. We hear in our brains. Our ears do not hear. They are the sender of the signal. The same for touch, smell, and taste. Our brains receive this stimuli by way of our nervous systems, then on to our perceptive centers of our brain from the advanced deciphering. In turn, this gives us our realities from moment to moment. Taken as electrical impulses, all things originate in the sensory centers of our brains, and therefore finish in the sensory centers of our brains. We imagine or perceive that these senses are reality. In fact, these senses are not real. Us as humans do not have the proof of what matter is really like on the outside of our brains. We are living from moment to moment on sent and received messages we perceive to be our unquestionable realities. All matter is transparent as to the atom's nature. The nucleus, neutrons and protons, spaces and gaps between such and thus makes these transparent. Our brains decode all of this simulated reality into what we can and do perceive as actuality. Is it one big giant simulation built by some advanced race? Should I even be concerned? Even a handful of new questions that arise have even put science itself in the questionable spotlight. New questions that even debunk modern science. Is it real? Do I want it to be real? What if it all isn't real? More and more great minds of our modern time are now seriously entertaining the growing theory that it is a supercomputing program that we exist inside of. A world, even a universe that is virtual. Is it a mistake to perceive all of this as real? Or is it commendable that we play the game for what it is? One can easily be excused for dismissing the simulation theory as everything around us just is too real to go against. Too many details to replicate the real around us for the fake show to prevail. Good and bad experiences must be real. Consider for a moment the astronomical speedy progress of technology in only 30 years and what can be observed over the next 30 years and so on. Moore's law suggests that the speed, power, and capacity of computer systems doubles in approximately 2 years. Every 2 years. Just imagine with our limited simulated minds a 10-year progress in computer systems, even conservatively following Moore's law, from today, and then double it. Then look at 100 years. We cannot comprehend even a minuscule of progress following this law, and if we did, our minds would explode. We cannot fathom our future landscape. Even our mental landscape of this future will be so completely foreign. Quite possibly even the languages we speak. Our conversations may all be code or even a faster again communicating device. The traditionalist love of language way of speak will be possibly kept for the love of speaking, just like vintage cars. And the superhighway communications that waits for no passengers will have zoomed ahead. Possibilities are growing of this universe being manufactured by races far beyond ours. We are the microorganisms that had their start given to them in a laboratory of dimension and matter. The actuality of such experiments are not too far out of human reach. Taking this notion of the beginnings of our universe further again, we mustn't ignore the next possibility, and this is a reality or actuality of being that transforms our beliefs once again. We are all of the simulated type of being, an incredibly powerful, all-encompassing computer. Our roles in this are merely existing as a type of code governed or set forth by the program, and not unlike the scenario of the characters in the original Tron, at times questioning their own reality, their memories and dreams. Back to our brain stimuli that only gives us the perception of realities, we react predictably, following the billions of sub-programs that define us as real. If this scenario is the real one, then in reality of human actuality there is no way out, no breaking through a wall, but possibly redefining oneself in other ways, hence our innate desires for betterment and possibly beyond. Given the one pocket of this entire universe, a natural desire for knowledge and improvement, this desire in itself becomes its own universe. Throughout history, humans have made their own simulations for one purpose or another, and inevitably we are all collectively heading toward that special place in time where we are able to manufacture the perfect product of a simulation. This will scientifically prove to ourselves once and for all that the us are existing inside of other simulations, and so on and so on. One of many Russian dolls. Maybe this is just the beginning. We already adopt the powerful outputs of programming into extreme research possibilities. This data we call information. We then figure out ways to reach even further with no end in sight. Whether this capability be used in scientific research, gaming, entertainment, education, spurious intelligence, and war. Simulations that we create of other living beings shine a whole new light on complex behavioral systems such as bees and ants for directional systems and other minute behaviors we haven't even started to explore as yet. All this and right through to the behavior of galaxies. The thought of implanting pure human decision-making into these computer programs we are developing. Human cognition and reasoning working together with machines and transport, simulations developed by us will safeguard the safety of such exercises by simply being born out of earlier simulations, systematically irradiating the error out of trial and error. The ability for us to create automatons not with artificial intelligence but with consciousness. Ironically, further advanced experiments in quantum computing simulations will take us even closer to the whole mapping of our very own brains. The vast number of these simulations may even start to take on a whole new consciousness of their own and possibly leave us completely out of the loop. Realistically, there are statistically millions of other intelligent life systems like ours that are even far more advanced than ours, with real probabilities that these beings have already reached or surpassed this point. What then? The law of averages adds more and more weight to this supposition every day, taking science fiction theory to science fact and drawing our what-if scenarios to new heights ever so steadily. Human endeavor to persevere in this direction outweighs the religious creationism fear of futurism, as the sound humanistic ethics far outweigh the desire for ignorance and entropy. The clues are right in front of us. The definitive fine-tuning of the quantum physics of life around us, the mathematics in the engineering, numbers that hold the universe together, numbers that hold our bodies together. We are intrigued by these same numbers, constantly on this human journey of knowledge, to one day have the power ourselves, to one day emulate the universe. Numbers and components in nature, however, how minute they are, is the calling card clue to the intelligent design of the human species. Life is impossible to go on or even exist without intricate tuning that makes it possible in the first place for the valid system to appear and exist. Now, as we consider simulations, the question is there a plenitude of simulated universes? After effects of the birthing events of matter, all with different similar or mixed properties of physics, some with habitable zones hospitable to life and some without. Luck of the dice. Our particular zone appears to be the lucky one. Parallel or duplicate universes are all highly postulated ideas. Check out my episode on traveling into parallel realities. With the level of postulation come an equal amount of feasibility and the conceivability of this universe being a simulated one, all pre-planned by the simulation builders to put forth exactly the desired simulated world or worlds that are ultimately perfectly conceived. If this proposition is anywhere true, then the simulation creators naturally come from somewhere. Possibly a real universe, an origin universe with matters and laws of physics far different to the laws of physics we know. This original universe so different that only the creator species can exist in such a place. True observation of the universe around us surely has its limits. These limits peculiarly are the resolution we can go. Visual observation must be taken out of the equation, for there is only so far our limited understanding can take us visually. A simulated universe, of course, would have its limits of what its inhabitants could see, hence the nature of quantum physics. Or is this a natural limit to our knowingness? A planned simulation default or safeguard we must see through and beyond the mathematics to fathom the construct we are in. Speaking of math, it is highly probable that this simulated universe is one of many, and we are all the exact replicants of the original. To replicate the intricate mathematical algorithms would be far more desirable by the creators than to throw out there an unpredictable mess of inhabitants with no sure survival. If we are made in His image, so they say, we would emulate similar reasoning. This reasoning to duplicate for study purposes and, more importantly, the purpose of a survival model. Another hypothesis is going the complete opposite of surface reasoning, and this is the opportunity of the simulation creators to create our simulation completely at random. This randomness in algorithms can very much further their intellectual knowledge far more than the predictable could ever do. The creators of our simulation not even knowing where we are going from one war to the next, extinctions, climate predicaments, human endeavors, space travel, and so on. Our reality and unpredictability is a gift. A gift or not, the physics of this simulation are governed mathematically by the creators, housed in an ongoing, ever-changing formula that needs monitoring by the monitors. These monitors being simulations within the simulations, existing as a plenitude of simulations, impossible to decipher where one begins and one ends. The simulation evidence builds and builds just as the theory of simulations build upon themselves. Our minds may never be fully up to the task of knowing the supposed unknowable, simply because in the big picture of things, our roles in the simulation are to play the game, to be the game, not to tamper with the construct. As inhabitants of this built universe, we are observed for purposes of future universe simulations. If any of these reality scenarios is a touch depressing and hopeless, then a settling additional thought is that the non-simulation theory of a universe purely built upon and from itself is not really any different. So the reality of simulations building other simulations gives far more searching hope of our one day maybe finding answers that await our open minds. Does each one of us belong to a biological information list? This bioinfo list, as opposed to mathematics, ones and zeros, may never be truly answered, as the true makeup that makes us may only be found in the ether of the atom that simulations are never meant to define, hence the safeguarding of the invention. An information list is all will ever be unless we are predestined or pre-programmed to connect spiritually, and by this meaning with other simulations higher on the simulation scale. For this to happen, we must look within, into the ether of our atoms, for this is truly where the communicative linking will take place. On the smallest scale, still unobservable to simulations, these digital bits of the information list are the hard drive, without need of physical connection to one another but stellar quantum communication. If we are of the random type of simulation, then this is the key. The random key that can be turned by the right combination. Such journey is ours, if we but only see. If we are just the simulation created by others, then we are linked descendants in one form or another to our ascendants. The actuality of change or pre-designed intervention by the originals or even by the more advanced simulations, the randomness, information tweaking for us to stay on track in survival, pristine evolution and knowledge is the endgame. In order to ensure stability in the simulation, we must practice unpredictability. Echoes of the vibrations are at their loudest when events do not go as planned, expected, or predicted. We enter closer to the field of the ether level in vibration. The more we embrace unpredicted events, big or small, we move closer to the interveners by shaking the information list in an observed way of the unexpected. All the world is a stage. Aside from striving for better and more complete lives through our human existence, we now have the speck of knowledge that we all may be observed either lovingly or spuriously, each glimmer of truth changing our very outcomes depending on our subjectivity. Awareness of being collectively monitored can surely lift our standards and better self-observe how we treat others. There are no rehearsals in life. As for the questions of our simulation builders being either loving or spurious, it is far more life and matter's interest to be loving, as this is what truly brings harmony and insight into such an organized creative concept. Basic instinct tells us that the spurious, regardless of the countless movie synopses of this nature, would unquestionably rub itself out of existence almost right at the beginning, if on the side of maliciousness. The innate spirit of love dominates our earth existence. Therefore, if we as a simulation are the product of the original, then the original beings innately are teeming with love for this love to play any kind of role in the simulations. Envisioning the characteristics of the originals really depends on the evolutionary zone, as the unique ingredients of every zone throughout our simulated universe varies immensely. So does the look and appearance of higher simulations, and thus forth the look and appearance of the originals. I believe that we move through these simulations and evolve, and then our programs move on to higher level programs moving through simulations. It may be something even more complicated than a simulation. That's how we can think of it, because that's the level of technology that we're at. There may be something beyond simulations that this is more apparently connected to, but this is how we can ponder and perceive it. The possibilities are endless of large human-like self-aware races having the nature and the capabilities to create a simulation of themselves. The ancestor simulation is a very real possibility, and we may be in it. All this leading to the reality of simulations within other simulations and so on. This suggesting that there are very high chances that our universe is in fact one of the many simulations within simulations. The probability of whether we are living in an advanced computer simulation is a very old one, going back a long way. The very probability of reality and what is reality. If we have the mental capabilities to ask these questions over and over throughout history, then what is to say that we do not have the capabilities to dissemble portions of our perceived reality and start building our own convoluted one? This intriguing notion, and the notion of what is the nature of the simulation, a truthful lie or a deceitful lie? Are we designed to go down this rabbit hole? A computer simulation's inhabitant thinks, therefore the computer simulation inhabitant must be. This doesn't prove self-awareness or other simulation theories, but does simply prove existence is real. But what kind of existence? A natural human existence or a designed existence with a veil over our consciousness? If we have such thoughts and philosophical questions in life and about life, then we certainly do exist somewhere in some shape or form. The builders of our reality surely didn't build this reality to trick us, but the reality may just be too astronomical to fathom, that our consciousness tricks itself, just as we dream for all kinds of reasons, not for trickery in itself, but for a realignment of the psyche and survival. Examining the reality possibly that we are inhabiting an extremely sophisticated simulation, one that is so rich in its spectrum of constants that it'll keep its inhabitants busy for quite a while. A sophisticated enough simulation that us as inhabitants will one day learn the technology ourselves and be the builders of other worlds, universes, and civilizations. We must be scientific and mature enough to realize the probabilities of our existence. I could surely talk about this forever, and I really want to hear your perspective of it. There's obviously no way that we can prove this. We can see the faint glimmers and shadows of this idea in the world around us. And it's not important. You don't need to believe it. You can still have a deeply spiritual belief in the world around you, if it's a simulation or not. My mind just likes to conceive and ponder the possibilities of this and what they mean. You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com, and welcome to the reality revolution.